This is Ganymede. Ganymede's another artificial satellite. Ganymede has life on it, has water, has an atmosphere, has oxygen. Many of the benevolent races use this as a base. This is Ganymede. I'm sorry? That's Jupiter. It's one of the moons of Jupiter. Now, if you look carefully at the satellite we just sent up there, and you look at the rotation of what it's focusing on, the moons that it's focusing on will tell you an awful lot about what it is that they're looking for. They do nothing without a reason.
What's up, guys? Tyler here with Secure Team, and I actually wasn't planning on posting a video tonight. It's about 4 a.m. as we speak. I was thinking of maybe getting a little bit of sleep, but then I remembered that I'm not tired at all, and that really I never sleep, and neither does Insomnia Team. And so there continues to be this daily surge of mysterious and strange discoveries, both on Earth and off-planet out in space. And the first thing that I want to talk about today surrounds one of the many bodies in our solar system, one in particular that I'm sure many of you have never even heard of, and if you have heard of it, well, you haven't heard much. But in fact, this little-known object could very well be one of the most, if not the most, potentially alien-inhabited worlds in our entire solar system besides planet Earth. And that, of course, we are talking about one of the many moons, the largest moon of planet Jupiter, and it's called Ganymede. Now, before we go any further, as you saw at the beginning of this video, I featured a clip. Many of you probably don't know where it's from, but it actually was during a talk that took place back in 1996 of none other than a Mr. Alex Collier. And if you haven't heard that name before, well, I've actually played his entire lecture, the short clip of which you saw at the beginning of the video. I've shown that whole clip on the channel, and I'll put a link to it down below. It's very interesting. But it is one of the very first clips that I stumbled across back on YouTube, you know, way back in the day before Secure Team even existed. And it's just one of the videos that actually got me interested into the topic of aliens, you know, what is out there, something's being covered up. And so while I don't agree with everything that Mr. Collier talks about, he certainly, and especially for his time back in the early to mid 90s, was putting out a lot of amazing ideas. And he himself claims to have been a lifelong abductee, having been communicating with an alien being from Andromeda since he was a child. And so this is how he knew the information about these various moons and planets in our solar system. And like I said, it's an extremely interesting talk, but as you just saw in that video, in that small clip I showed, he was talking about Ganymede and how, well, according to him, it is one of the central hubs and moons in the solar system that is used as a base for otherworldly beings to land and jump from. And so you also heard Mr. Collier talking about, very matter-of-factly, that there was water on Ganymede, there was oxygen, there was an atmosphere, there was all of this stuff. And, well, we really didn't have any evidence to back that up back then. However, the main portion of today's video is going to discuss some of these new discoveries that have just been found out by the space agencies that may just corroborate some of the things that Mr. Collier was saying all the way back in 1996 about this mysterious little moon. And well, actually, it's not that little, and in fact, is bigger than planet Mercury, and is again the largest and most massive moon of Jupiter, of 60 moons around Jupiter, as well as the entire solar system. It's the biggest moon, period. However, despite its size, and despite some of just, the mundane details that many of you probably didn't know about this object, it is now appearing to be, after new evidence, an extremely likely candidate for alien life in the solar system. And so basically what had just happened was that the Hubble telescope was pointed in the direction of Ganymede, and they started taking photographs and noticed these bright blue auroras circling around the poles of the planet. And it turns out that Ganymede is again the only other moon in the solar system besides planet Earth that has its own self-contained magnetic field, which obviously helps shield from various space particles, dust, and what have you. But as they were looking deeper at these auroras and their sort of funny placement, they looked at some data that was taken back in the 1960s by another probe that had flown by Ganymede, taken some data that up until now was basically just ignored, and what they have discovered was that something inside Ganymede was sort of tugging on this magnetic field, and after looking at further data came to the rock-solid conclusion that Ganymede is definitely harboring a salt water ocean that is so massive it contains more water than all of the oceans of Earth combined. And who's to say if it doesn't have some sort of atmosphere or life teeming under the surface? Which brings us to a couple of very mysterious and intriguing discoveries, the first of which was this very weird radio emission that was recorded by the Galileo probe as it flew over this mysterious moon. Now, aside from the mystery signals coming from the moon itself, we also have a recent discovery of something very out of place and some would dare say artificial, planted down on the surface of Ganymede in what has been described by a couple of different people as a massive, shiny black dome, partially buried and yet sticking up high above the surface of Ganymede. You're seeing that image here, taken and found from NASA's archive. I'll put the link to this down below. But without having zoomed in at all yet, you can already see the object in question, completely jet black. It almost looks like that black volcanic glass that, although you pretty much can't see through it at all, it's very reflective, it looks glass-like, and we can even see what appears to be the reflection of the sun glinting off the top of this shiny black dome down on the surface of this moon. And as we zoom in here, again, you know, this doesn't look like any typical crater I've ever seen. In fact, we see a large crater to the side in the upper right of the image, but this thing looks like something else entirely, and it would even appear to have a few structures sitting right here at the base of the object, which again, it looks like a dome. It looks like one of the domes where, like in other images, we can see the sunlight glinting off of the top of it. It reminds me of some other photographs taken from the moon, where over the years, in fact, we have found multiple glass dome-shaped structures scattered all over our moon's surface, and we'll go ahead and go through a few of these images here. So, it was just something strange discovered. You guys tell me what you think. Who would have ever thought that Ganymede, yet another body in the solar system that you never hear anything about? You know, it's strange to me, and it goes back to one of the recent videos I posted, if you guys remember, where I was talking about planet Venus, which is the closest planet in the entire solar system to planet Earth. It's almost as if there has been a total blackout, and our attentions have been turned away in the opposite direction towards Mars, towards Saturn, towards Jupiter, and all of these places that are much harder to reach and are in a region of space that is much more harsh for life. And so have they been doing the same with Ganymede here? You guys tell me down below what you think, but again, subsurface oceans, salt water, more than all of the water on Earth combined. Does Ganymede hold a secret? And will NASA let us know what that secret may be down the line? I guess only time will tell. So with that is all I have for you guys today. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and stay tuned because you know I've got much more coming, and I'll see you all back in just a bit. Stay safe, guys.